already.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, she is. Oh,
Oh
All
my
right, well,
goodness.
thanks everybody for joining me. This kind of started out a couple of weeks ago. I did a virtual happy hour and just kind of put it out there, and people were joined in and they liked it. And so I thought, well, you know what, let's go ahead and do this with maybe the morning show. And so I threw a message to Ralph and to Darla and see if they wanted to join in, and they thought it was a good idea. So then I extended it to the rest of you, and I thought, let's make it so that other people, some of the regulars that used to call in can join us. And also,
I did this the first time on FaceTime too.
It back then could join us. So,
Nice.
oh, there you go, Steph.
Oh, that's cool.
So I think it's a great time because a lot of us. I think the last time I saw Steph and Ralph and Leslie was just before Stephanie moved down to Florida. So it's been, you've been down there for what, 3-4 years now?
It'll be 5 years this August.
5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
It's been a while. And then I know Leslie and Ralph and I had dinner. Oh, that's been probably 3 or 4 years since we met at New Holland and had dinner. So it's been a while since we've all had a chance to get out. And Moose, I haven't seen you since God only knows. It's been a very long time, very long time. So I thought it'd be just a great time to kind of all get caught up, let everybody know what we're doing, what we're up to. Let's go ahead and start with Ralph. Go ahead and why don't you fill us in on what you're doing now and how's life?
Okay, well, first off, thanks for remembering coming over to my house last summer for my son's graduation.
I was there for your son's graduation. Hard to believe you actually have a son that's old enough to graduate from high school.
Yeah, right. Yes. So for me, let's see, I left radio. Man, whoever that is probably nuts.
Hang on a sec. It is. I'm not sure who's feeding back here.
yeah, something is.
All right, try again.
Okay, perfect. So for me, I left GRD in 2006, I think. So 14 years ago or so. I've worked a couple different places. Currently, I'm at a company called RCI Adventure Products, where we do ropes courses, climbing walls, and mazes all throughout the world. And I do project management for them. And I actually was able to see Stephanie down in her home earlier this year because we had a course going up to a location real close to where she lives down in the Tampa area. So that was great.
So you're pretty much traveling all over the United States then, right, Ralph?
Yep, I stay domestic. We have international teams as well, but for me, it's all domestic travel.
Interesting. So someone calls and says, we want to have a rope course installed. You go in and kind of plan the whole thing and then kind of go from there. How's it work?
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair summary. We're on cruise ships. We're in the Mall of America. We're in, all over the world, literally. So it just depends upon a budget and the size and what you're looking to achieve. And then we'll go in and make a patented course that nobody else can do in the world.
Wow, very interesting.
Yeah.
All right, Leslie, how about you? What have you been up to in the last 20 or so years since we've all been together?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Ralph for inviting me to his son's graduation party last summer.
You're welcome.
That's nice. I'm back in the insurance game. I think I left there around 2000 GRD. Mm-hmm. And I came from the insurance industry. I went back into it about 15 years ago. I'm back with the same company doing business analytics. I work between our business and IT areas and test software changes and stuff. I really love it. I love trying to work with developers and figure out what's wrong and fix the problem and get it back to our business users. So it's good stuff. Yeah.
Tell us how old Remy is now, because when you were working with us, Remy was just a mere little. Was she starting kindergarten back then? I think.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that actually this morning when Ralphie used to take her trailer trading.
Oh yeah.
For Halloween. Remy is 25. She went to U of M and stayed on the east side of the state, and she actually just bought her first house. She's over by Royal Oak.
Oh wow.
And yeah, so she moved in there a couple of weeks ago. Perfect timing with everything going on in Detroit. So I wasn't really happy about that, but she assures me she's got groceries and she's staying real close to home. So
sure.
Yeah, and I have another little one, Piper. She's going to be 8 in July.
Wow. And Ralph, you've got two boys. You've got the one that just graduated from high school, and you've got another one who's what, 15, 16?
Yeah, he'll be 15 in a couple of weeks.
Wow. And Steph, how about you? Fill us in. What's happening?
Oh my gosh. From GRD, I went to Channel 13 for a bunch of years when they first started Take 5. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I went down to Tampa to the same station ownership group. Like they're owned by Tegna up in Grand Rapids. Went down to the Tegna station in Tampa. And then from there, I went into advertising, which I love. I'm on the flip side of things now, which is kind of fun. It's the first time I've actually ever made money in my whole career. Oh, I'm loving that. I do that. And then I do, I work on HSN also. I do some on-air work with them. And Bridget and Fidget are 20 and 22.
Wow.
Crazy,
Oh my
right?
gosh.
Oh, like Leslie and I had kids around the same age when we were both on the air. It's so weird. Like they're
Right.
so big now.
Right.
Yeah.
And I see Darla just joined us. Hi, Darla.
Yay.
Hey.
She's the audio's still connecting, so she may not be able to hear us.
Oh.
She
I
looks
see her.
confused.
Who, me?
Oh, Darla.
Oh.
No, Ralphie always looks confused.
No, I'm not.
She's still connecting to audio, it says. So, Moose, why don't you go ahead and fill us in while we're waiting for Darla?
I was trying to remember the last time I was on the radio. I think it was some sort of backyard pool party or something. I think that might have been one of my last.
Was it our naked pool parties?
It might have been. Wow. Anyway, since I left, I got out of the automotive industry. I went and worked for a church in Toronto for about 5 years. Worked with youth, taught in a school, maintenance, things like that. And 2015, moved back and started back in the automotive again.
So you're back in the state of Michigan now?
Yeah,
Okay.
over in Warren, Michigan.
Okay, because I've seen some of your posts on Facebook about your biking excursions, and
Yes.
from the map, it looked like you were over on the east side of the state. So I wasn't sure. Last I knew, you were still over in Canada.
Yeah, no, we moved back in October 2015, back to this side. And then I've been working I started at Magna, and then I went for Lear Corporation, and then 3 great kids, crazy. Been married for 15 years this year.
Wow.
Oh.
It's just hard to believe everyone's been married for so long and their kids are so old. And Darla, welcome aboard.
Wait till he talks to you.
So, hi, Darla J.
Hi, Darla.
Can you hear us, Darla?
This is like having my mom on the call.
We can see you, Darla.
Not anymore.
No.
Can anybody
Oh,
read lips?
Darla. Was that John?
I says, can anybody read lips?
Yeah.
Someone message her.
Well, Bruce, why don't you go ahead and fill us in while we're waiting for Darla?
Okay. Well, obviously I wasn't really employed at GRD, but
No, but you are official, unofficial photographer.
Right.
You were at almost all of our
It was-
events.
it was, I have to admit that was some of the best times I've ever had with you guys all. It was just a lot of fun. A lot's happened since then. My wife, Terry, passed away in 2013 from a rare lung disease. And I found a great lady. We got married 4 years ago. And then last year, I got the same disease that took Terry.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize
Oh.
that.
Wow.
I'm one of those compromised people that if I get this disease that's out there now, it'll kill me.
Oh, wow.
I'm down to about 70% of my lungs.
So are you basically hunkering down at home? Have you not even left the house?
Yeah, I'm pretty much at home. If I go out, we go out for walks and stuff, but I'm trying to keep away from people, which you guys know for me is really difficult to do because I love people. I love talking to people, and we have 3 goats, so I go out and talk to them.
Darla, can you hear us now? Apparently she can't hear us.
Darla.
I
Darla.
just wave.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
She can't hear us. This is going to be a fun conversation with Darla.
Winners, I want to know where Bruce lives that he's got 3 goats.
I live in Lowell.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been here 20 years. As part of the Kent County Youth Fair for 20 years, they kept bugging me about, you don't have any animals. So last year we got 3 goats and built a barn, and they're just fun. It's just fun to have them.
Yeah. Entertaining.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're just crazy funny sometimes.
Bruce, do you want to talk about the adventure you had finding your family members?
Oh yeah, I'm adopted, and last year, I with the illness, I figured it might be good to find out what my history was, the medical history. So I started looking into it and found out that in New Jersey, where I was born, they have a new law, well, not new, 2017, that I can get a copy of my birth certificate, my original one. So I sent for it and came like 3 months later, and through a lot of Googling and finding people and moving through, I was able to find some relatives. And I was talking to this one guy, and he's like, wow, this is so cool, Bruce. Have you talked to your brothers yet? And I just I paused and I said, what brothers? So it turns out I have two brothers. I grew up on Long Island. We grew up 40 minutes apart from each other.
Oh, wow.
And so last year, after I got done being sick, we went and visited. And one of my brothers lives in the house that I would have grown up in. So it was really cool. And they're a lot like me, which is really scary. And oddly enough, Mom was a photographer.
Oh, interesting.
So I think that's genetic.
Carla, can you hear us now?
I can.
Oh, there she is.
Yay!
We thought we were going to have to try to read lips all this time. Darla, we're just going around. Go ahead.
I was just going to tell you, see, there's a severe thunderstorm warning going on here, and my mother was freaking out, and so I came running in here. I guess I should check this out before we started, huh?
We're just going around and everyone's kind of talking about what they've been up to in the last 25, 30 years. You're down in Texas now. Kind of give us a brief synopsis brief synopsis of what's going on.
Well, let's see. I'm in Houston, Texas. My brother lives here, and he had major surgery a couple of years ago, so I came down to take care of him. And I was living in Kansas City. Wes was here, and Mama J was in Florida. And so we started talking about Mama J getting older, and I at the time had just lost my job, and he said, hey, I have a great idea. Why don't you move down to Texas? You can buy a house, you can move Mom from Florida, and you can live with her. And I was like, oh, that's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And getting here, I came down here, and Hurricane Harvey happened. Then I went to Florida to talk my mom into coming, and Hurricane Irma happened. So I had to put my mom in a car and drive her to Alabama, Opelika, Alabama. We couldn't find a hotel. We drove for 16 hours. And then I went back and I packed up her house. She was freaking out, didn't want to come here. And came back here, bought a house, went back, packed her up, drove her here. And then we got here, and she hated it. She's 87 years old. She has Alzheimer's.
Oh.
Unfortunately. And we knew something was wrong, and it's gotten much, much worse. But so we got here, she hated it. I had lived by myself my entire adult life. So nothing like moving in with your mother when you're, 39, like I still am. And so
aren't we all?
Then she broke her knee and fractured her kneecap, had to have surgery. After she got done with that and we got her out of the hospital and rehab, I got diagnosed with breast cancer and had to go through treatment and explain to her every single day why I had to drive downtown to have radiation. How come? Because she kept forgetting that I had cancer. After I got done with cancer, she got pneumonia. And then, let's see what happened after that.
Well,
it's just been,
you broke the
one
bell.
thing after another.
You broke the bell. You made some national news breaking the bell.
Right.
Did you see the video of me breaking the bell?
Yeah.
It was, that was the best part. That was the best part. So I don't want to sound like a downer, because really I'm okay, except that my mom has a lung condition like Bruce does. And so obviously I can't let her out of the house. And so here we are. It's been a very exciting couple of years here.
Yeah, I bet. Well, thanks for joining us. We'll get to you in a second, John, because I want you to hear what you've been up to as well. But, it's interesting how, I always try to kind of put a positive spin on this whole coronavirus, COVID-19. And if it hadn't been for that, we probably wouldn't be doing this because, for one, I don't think there really was a platform that I knew about prior to hearing about Zoom where we could have all got together to do this. So, I guess that's the positive spin we can put on it, is the fact that we're all able to get back together and kind of share a few stories just because of that. So, John Baker, the head maker, what's been going on with you?
Oh my goodness. What hasn't been going on with me? It seems like everything I get into, I dive into. It's like I was part of the West Michigan Grand Prix as ceremony champion, or I should say Victory Circle.
Mm-hmm.
So I was with the West Michigan Grand Prix for a while. I was with MIS for a while. Technically, I'm still working in auto parts for the last 40 some odd years. But yeah, I mean, I've got 2 kids. Well, John and Pam, they came up for the Showtime rotisserie when we did that in the studio.
Right.
Both of them.
I don't know whatever happened to that Showtime rotisserie. Rick had it, and where it went from there, God only knows.
Well, we've got 2 yet. we use them too. But my daughter Pam lives down in Ohio. She has 2 kids, 1 boy, 1 girl, Katie and Brendan. And then my son, John, he's got 2 kids also. He's got Phoenix, and he's also got Brooklyn. And he lives right in Granville here, and I still live in Jenison. My wife works for the Hudsonville Public Schools, so she's been doing that for 30 some odd years. So, I mean, it's been a good life for us. Mm-hmm. And, like I said, it seems like everything I do, I delve into 100%.
Sure.
Of course, recently we've had some tragedies like everybody else has. I lost 2 brothers here just recently in the last 3 months. One we're having tested for COVID-19, and about what was it? 6 weeks ago, I was in the hospital for emergency appendectomy.
Oh wow!
So that was my vacation because now I'm deemed essential.
Right. So is everybody working from home then for the most part? I mean, I'm still, real estate is on hold. We can't do anything because real estate's deemed non-essential according to our governor. So we can do stuff over the phones. We can still actually put orders or agreements, purchase agreements together. However, there's an addendum in there that says that they can, because they can't go see the house, that they've got 72 hours after they finally can go see the house to back out of the deal. So
oh, wow.
At this point, there's really no sense of putting a deal together because probably 90% of them are going to fall through once they can finally go see a house in person. So real estate's non-essential. I am still going into the radio station every day. They're not allowing the administrative staff or sales staff in the building. So for the most part, it's just the on-air staff in there. And I go in the afternoon and there's nobody there but me and a couple of other people on some of the sister stations. So I don't really see anybody there, but at least it gets me out of the house. So I'm not stuck at home. How about the rest of you? Are you stuck at home or what's going on?
I'm stuck at home, working home. Stuck at home, working home, remote, everything. We've done this for about 2.5 weeks now, so I'm about itching to see other humans. Oh my gosh.
I bet. How about you, Leslie? You're going in, right?
No, I'm I'm full-time work at home since all this started.
Okay. And Ralph, you said you're working from home?
No, I'm not working. I'm laid off currently. Our company kept maybe 10% of our staff on work, and the rest were laid off.
Gotcha.
So I'm part of that was laid off.
Right. Okay. Well, hopefully this is all over soon and we can kind of get back to a new normal, I guess, because it certainly isn't going to be the normal that we're used to. Let's go back and talk about some of our favorite things that we did on the morning show. I look back at, I've got a lot of the audio posted on my blog at scottwintersblog.com. I've got a lot more that I got to get up there. I just haven't had a chance to do it. And now I've got some time to work on that. Unfortunately, there's a lot of times I'll get requests for things that we did. And back then, there really wasn't a good way to archive that stuff. So I don't have as much audio as I wish I did. But let's go back. Darla, tell us, pick one thing that we did over the years that really stands out for you.
Easy question.
I was just telling somebody about this. What was the occasion? We came up with an underground mall.
Yeah, it was April
remember this?
Fool's Day. Yes, it was.
It was April Fool's Day. And we talked about this underground mall that was opening up, and we talked about all the things that were happening. We had, oh, look, there's a marching band, and we had sound effects for marching band, and all the stores that were opening, and we couldn't wait to get there. I think you and I were supposedly broadcasting from there. And
actually, back then when we did it, I was still doing the afternoon show with Dave and Allison. And so I think the morning show supposedly did a broadcast from there before it opened, and then we did a broadcast for the grand opening. Yes. And so, yeah, that was, and people were, it was actually, I told everybody, it was on the corner of East Paris and Burton or Breton, I think. And we had people.
How do you remember that?
I don't know. It's one of those things that I can't remember what I had for dinner yesterday, but I can remember dumb details like this. But we had people driving around looking for this underground mall, and it was just a vacant lot. And actually, our PD at the time, Tom Marshall, got a couple of irate phone calls from parents because their kids went through a whole tank of gas driving around looking for this underground mall that never existed.
That was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Leslie, how about you?
I think, just some of the guests that we had on the air over the years, like, John Valby, Judy Tenuta. What was it? Jay Medicine Hat, the guy that hypnotized Ralphie on the air. That's probably my ultimate in-studio experience when Ralphie was hypnotized and gave birth to his son, Ralphie Jr.
Little
Ralphie Jr.
Ralphie Jr.
That's right.
He had a glow.
Ralph, how about your favorite? Because you were out there doing a little bit of everything.
Wow. I mean, that's such a hard thing to remember because I did so many things that I remember when somebody brings them up at this point.
Right.
That I don't remember prior to that. I mean, we did the naked pool parties. We used to go to people's kitchens and broadcast. Mm-hmm. I know I'm going to give a blanket answer here more than like a specific one. I remember very vividly going to the nudist colony and broadcasting from there.
That was Stephanie's favorite.
Yeah, Forest Hills Club, I think it was called. Yep. I remember riding the scooter out to Grand Haven.
Oh yeah.
I remember the squid toss very vividly.
About the crane tosses, I was always amazed at how we'd get a bunch of people to come out to watch things just crash to the ground.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
And the shit that they would bring.
Yeah, toilets, cigarette machines, a little bit of everything.
Yeah, and then we'd have Moose hop up there and just heave that stuff over, and then we had to stop eventually. I don't know, if anybody remembers why we had to stop, but
someone got hurt. Someone got hit by a flying piece of porcelain from a toilet.
That's right. The sales department decided to sell it, and then we're in a way too small of a space. So, but yeah, there's just so many things that I did during my time that I remember.
What about deer hunting?
Yeah,
deer hunting. Yeah, thank you, Darla. And you crying. Yeah. I remember Darla crying, and then I came back with the phone. It was Winter's big box.
Yeah, it was that big brick G.I. Joe looking.
Yes. And Darla could see. I didn't wipe the blood off. It didn't even occur to me. I was 24, and it didn't occur to me to clean off the blood. And I remember Darla seeing the blood, and that made her upset too when I came back. And, yeah.
That's probably the one that I get the most requests for when people ask for audio. It's Ralphie's deer hunting. So that one's a big one. Ralph, we sent you out to do a lot of things, and I know there were some things you didn't like doing. So what were some of them?
I hated wino tasting.
Yeah.
Wine tasting.
I was just gonna say that wine testing with winos.
I hated that one. That one was terrible. I hated too the one that Moose and I did where they dressed us up as women and then took glamour shots of us.
Oh yeah.
I remember Mooses.
I remember Mooses for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we were basically two dudes in drag, and everybody thought it was great except us. And then we saw the pictures and absolutely died looking at those pictures. But that one I didn't like either at all.
I'm surprised you didn't. That's the first time I'd heard that you didn't like that one. I knew you didn't like the wine tasting for winos, but I didn't realize that the glamour shots one bothered you.
The glamour shots one at the time bothered me because I thought it was just so stupid that we were being made up to look like women. It didn't make any sense to me.
Steph, how about you? What was your favorite?
Oh, Ralph kind of took mine. Oh, and if you have kids in the room right now, you might want to muff them a minute. It's truly the naked pool party at the nudist colony, because I had listened to the show for years. And so I always thought there was a bit of like theater of the mind when it came to naked
And there
pool
was
parties.
for a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was no theater of the mind or any ways that I've ever to this day gotten the visual of all that out of my mind. Not only were they naked, but they were naked cooking us breakfast, which
That's
was
right.
one of the best breakfasts we've ever had. And then there was a rogue guy that was not with them, that was not with us, but he sat in a chair in front of us, like eye level, adhering to the no dress code, and things were shiny. And it was
It was like all oiled up or something.
and it was yes. And it was like, and I'm reading the news at eye level. So for the people that are standing up, all I can see, I'm like, it took a long time to really recover from that one. That was definitely the best.
How about Moose? What was your favorite?
I've always liked the crane drops. Those were fun. I think the one that shocked me most, like Stephanie was saying, is I came racing in one time for this naked pool party, and it was real.
Right?
It was crazy. People swimming in the pool with nothing on. I'm just like, the hair that must be everywhere. But, yeah, one of the things I remember most, and I still get every once in a while, I still get a family friend when I had talked to Howard Stern.
Right. Well, that was a big one because they brought, when we left KLQ, they brought Howard Stern in eventually after they tried a few other things that didn't work. And he spent a whole day of his national show talking about us locally. And you were able to kind of break in on the news conference that they had, because at that time, nobody knew who you were over at KLQ, where they knew, Rick Darla and myself and Ralph, so we couldn't go, but you stuck in and were actually able to kind of bust in. That was a good time, but man, you had big balls to do that. I don't know if I could have done that.
I was so petrified. But I think my favorite soundbite every time I think about the radio station is when we came back and we were talking about nicknames. And Ralphie didn't want to give his nickname. So I said it was Poopy. And then Kathy was on the phone, Quaker, and she goes, "No, he's Poopy Man." And we just broke up and just killed ourselves laughing. That was probably my favorite soundbite of everything I can remember.
It was definitely a lot of fun. I look back at some of the things that we did that we probably couldn't do today.
Oh.
I don't think that they would just allow us to do those things today. But back then, I mean, we would always try to push it to the line and not go over. There were times we did go over. There were a lot of things that happened thanks to Rick and his drinking that, Darla, I'm sure you remember the fire extinguisher at Calypso's.
Oh, I've told that story so many times. If I close my eyes, I could see us standing up on the stage at Calypso's. It was Halloween morning, and Rick had brought the cardboard cutout of, who was the cardboard cutout of?
Was it
Chevy Chase?
Chevy Chase, yes.
So we had Chevy Chase had a night show for about 3 minutes, and on television, and somehow we got a cardboard cutout. Rick brought it with him. Of course, by the third hour of the show, he was pretty tuned, and he thought it would be funny to light Chevy Chase's head on fire, and it went up like crazy.
Well, it was made out of cardboard. Yeah.
It was cardboard, so it started on fire. Everybody's in their costumes down below us, and he went and he grabbed the fire extinguisher, and first he put out Chevy, and then he turned it on the entire crowd.
Oh my!
It was a chemical
Whoa.
fire extinguisher, and he put it on the entire crowd. It got into all the sound equipment, and the minute he had a sober moment, and he went, "Oh crap!" And can we say shit on?
Yeah, we can
Zoom?
say whatever we want to
Anything.
now.
No FCC.
Awesome. So Scott and I are standing there. Oh my God! And of course he left. He would always do that, and Scott and I always had to clean up the mess. And so the owner was all upset. People had chemical fire extinguisher in their eyes, in their hair. It was all over the place. And they had us back again.
Yeah, surprisingly. But it cost them thousands of dollars. Like Darla said, they had to come in because it was basically hazardous material. They had to come in and basically just clean and sanitize the entire bar, the venting system. It was just unbelievable. All just from one fire extinguisher and probably a bottle of vodka.
And then, what are you so mad about, Toots?
Darla, the one bit that I remember that really wasn't even on the air, it was shortly after you moved up here and you left your purse in the studio, and Rick took the little grease pens that we used to edit tape for those of us that weren't in the industry. We used to have to edit audio on reel-to-reel tape, and you would mark where you wanted to make the cut with a grease pencil. And they came in different colors. They were bright orange, and there were white ones. And well, Darla left her wallet sitting in the studio one day, and I don't know if she went to the bathroom or went back to her office. And tell us what he did to your driver's license.
Okay, so this was actually a 3-part series. So I left my wallet in there, and I'm trying to remember the sequence. I went, either went to the bank or something after the show, and they wanted to see my driver's license. So I pulled it out, and he had drawn in grease pencil Bozo the Clown over my face. So, you know, I had to laugh at the person at the bank.
And you didn't know that it was there when you handed the person your ID.
No, I had no idea. Tossed it, and he's like, what the heck? Excuse me. So then I forgot about it because I'm an idiot. And the second time was, there was a porn star, was a guy, he was black and his name was something.
Was it Long Dong Silver?
Yes! So he put Long Dong Silver's picture over my face, and I think I was at a different bank, and I didn't look. He waited long enough that I forgot about it. Threw it out, and the woman behind the counter was like, "Oh my God!" And it was Long Dong Silver naked over my face. The last time, 3:00 in the morning, coming to work, I stopped at 7-Eleven to get some gas. I went, and that was when they still let you write checks. And I'm writing a check, and she said, "Can I see your driver's license?" And sure. 3:00 in the morning, the woman was about, probably my age. Anyway, she was working there, and I threw my driver's license down on the counter, and there was a naked woman with her legs spread wide open that had hair from her knees all the way up to, I swear, their belly button. It's funny now. I'm so embarrassed.
He used to do that all the time in the studio.
Yes.
And I remember like being very sheltered when I first started. Like I was very
we changed
young.
that soon enough.
Yeah. He would call me over in the guise of like, let me show you this news thing. And it would be like a woman interacting with a dog. I mean, things.
Yes.
I grew up really fast. Did not fall for that more than at least 5 times.
Yeah. I kept falling for it. You know something, besides the drinking, and that was really, really hard for me. I know it was hard for you, Scott. I'm sure it was hard for all of you that followed me. He was the funniest, the most brilliant, the most creative and clever human being I've ever met in my life.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. Agreed.
Somebody at some point must have told him when he was drinking that he was funny. And he thought, I think Rick truly, deeply thought that the only way he could be funny was to be drunk. And it was actually quite the opposite. I actually found him funnier and just more fun to be around when he was sober. When he was drunk, I wanted to be on the opposite end of the planet.
It got so bad. That's why I left. Is that
and I don't know how many people know this story, but we can kind of go back to it now a little bit, Darla. Darla and I and Rick went to Cleveland for a job interview, and they flew us down on an airplane on Saturday morning. It was like an 8-9 o'clock flight. By the time we got to the airport to get on the plane, Rick was already smashed. And keep in mind, we're going to a job interview in Cleveland, which is a much bigger market than Grand Rapids. So we get down there, and it went downhill from there. Rick at one point was in the bathroom with the general manager of the station and tried to pick a fight with the
poking him in the chest.
Yeah, poking him in the chest. So that's why we never got a job and never went to Cleveland. But yeah, that was an ugly weekend, a very ugly weekend.
I said to Scott, we got to do whatever we can to make sure he doesn't drink. And we could hear the bottles in his gym bag that he brought on the airplane. And when we got there, the program director said, do you guys want to see the city or you want to go have a drink? And Scott and I go, let's go see the city. Excuse me. And Rick says, no, let's go have a drink. And of course it was double vodka on the rocks, 2 lemon twists. And after the first or second one, he started saying, how could you let a legendary station like WMMS go down the toilet? And that was that's what he said over
all
and
day and
over
all night
and
long.
over through the whole interview. And after, I mean, there's a lot more to the story, but Scott and I we tried so hard to cover up, because we all went out to dinner, Ruth Chris Steakhouse or something. Excuse me. And I remember we all ordered dinner. Scott and I ordered Diet Cokes. Rick ordered another double vodka on the rocks and 2 lemon twists and a plate of mushrooms. And every time I was in between him, then the general manager was to my left, to my right. Rick was to my left. Scott and the program director were in front of us. And every time Rick would lean forward and say, how could you let a legendary, I would lean forward and I'd go, did I tell you about the time that and when he got up to go to the bathroom, the program director said to Scott and I, do you want to tell me about Rick's drinking? And of course I lied because I wanted the job. I said, well, you know, when he gets really nervous, he drinks. When I get really nervous, I talk a lot. And so that's just what it is. And we knew that he had blown it for us. And that's when I decided to leave.
Yeah, because you left shortly after that, and you actually ended up in Cleveland working with Danny Douglas.
Yeah, the program director I called the program director the Monday after we got back, and I apologized. And he said, why are you apologizing? Why would Scott apologize? You know, you didn't do it. And then he said to me, why are you still there? And I said, because we're really good together. And he said, well, how long is that going to last? And I said, I don't know. And then 3 weeks later, he called me and offered me a job, and I took it.
And then they ended up selling the station as you're driving down.
Oh my God.
You didn't have very good luck with that.
Changing my life. You know, I'm going to go to Cleveland. I'm going to start something new. I'm going to start fresh. The day we went on the air, the station went up for sale. And we were on the air for 10 months, and they sold the station, and the new people came in and nobody talked to us. And I'd never been fired before. I didn't know, you know, I was so dumb back then. And finally on that Friday, I said to our intern, well, go get the program director and get him in here. He hasn't talked to us all week. And he came back and he's like shaking his head. I go, what are you shaking your head for? Well, they let us all go after that. And then it was a series of lots of things that happened after that. But I ended up in Kansas City, and I had a talk show there for 13 years. Ended up getting into talk radio. And so, you know, everything happened for a reason.
Right. Do you miss talk radio, Darla?
Oh, I would kill to be on the air.
Yeah,
right
me
now.
too. I mean, I'm still broadcasting, which, you know, I'm thankful for that, even though it's basically part-time. But just to be able, especially now with what's going on, just to be back there in that talk arena to talk about everything that's going on. And I can only imagine. I can only imagine what Rick would say now with everything that's going on. Imagine those conversations.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I lost my talk job in 2016, which was the year of the election. Then it killed me. And then I got a job with the sheriff's office in Kansas City and was their communications director. And it turned out that I liked it. I thought, you know, I can't do anything else but radio. And I really, really liked it. And then he retired, and the next sheriff that got hired wanted his own people. And then I ended up down here. Otherwise, but right now, since I've been off the air, I would love to be on the air right now because there's just so much happening and so much crap going on.
Do the rest of you miss it? Leslie, Ralph, Stephanie, do you miss it? Moose, do you miss being on the air?
Yes, absolutely. I miss it for the same reason that Darla said. When I really look back on on the time in morning radio, it was almost like it was like a weird form of therapy for yourself. Like, I don't think I've ever grown up so much in a short period of time, got to know myself, embraced being like a big giant weirdo. But like, you learn a lot about yourself, and it's like, it's therapy to just talk about, you know, your stuff.
Well, and it just we met. So go ahead, Ralph. Were you going to say something?
No, I was just going to say, for me, when I left in the mid 2000s, there was no Facebook. There was no way to communicate with listeners. Right. I literally was called out of the studio at 9 a.m. and I went into the general manager's office. I had a feeling it was coming, not necessarily that day, but it was coming. They said, "You're done." And I said, "Well, can I go back and get my headphones?" "No, you can't get anything." And I was out the door. And it left a very empty feeling to me because I never got a chance to tell listeners goodbye. I appreciate them. There was more I wanted to say. I think now radio does it maybe a little better than what they did back then.
Not really.
But I'm sure. Okay.
It was interesting story because let me kind of leapfrog on what you said. Interesting story because when they fired me, they, Phil Catlett and Bobby Duncan, the program director at the time, called me into Phil Catlett's office and told me they were going to let me go. And then you and Stephanie continued on the show for a while after that. But I remember them sitting down, and I knew that was going to happen. I mean, I knew it was inevitable. It was just a matter of when, especially when the one time that we had to have, I don't remember the guy's name. It was a comedian from like Big Rapids, and we had to have him come in, and he was basically doing an on-air audition for my job. Oh, and by the way, I'm still there working with him. It's like, "Oh yeah, come in, welcome to the show, and welcome to maybe my job that you're taking over." But anyway, so Phil Catlett calls me in, and I had read through my contract just to make sure I knew what was there because I knew the day was coming. So we did a remote at the blood bank that morning. Great show at the blood bank, and I got called back in the afternoon, and so I went in there, and I remember the look on Phil Catlett's face because he told me that they were going to move on and take a different direction and all the BS they tell you. And then he starts with this, "Well, we're going to give you 1 week of severance for every year that you worked here and you've been here for," and I said, "Oh, no. I said, "My contract says I get 6 months severance paid." And the color of his skin and face it was gone. He was white as a sheet. And I remember Bobby Duncan saying, "Yeah, it says 6 months." So I literally got paid for 6 months, and I'm making pretty good money then, for 6 months to do absolutely nothing. And then when we got hired at Wood wanted us to start. My 6 month severance wasn't up until like the middle of April, and Wood wanted us to start like the 1st of March. And so the lawyers at Wood contacted the lawyers at GRD and said, "Hey, Scott's willing to make the concession of you letting you out of his out of his severance pay if you'll let him out of his 6 month non-compete." And they wouldn't do it. So I was like, "Okay, you're not penalizing me. I just get 6 more weeks of sitting around doing nothing, waiting for your checks to come in." But it's just they fired Phil Catlett, called me in on a Tuesday and fired me, and then he says to me, he has the guts to say to me, he goes, "Well, we worked through Friday." And I said, "Wait a minute, it's Tuesday. Did you not just fire me?" He goes, "Well, yeah." I said, "Then I'm done today. I'm not going to go back on the air and say my goodbyes," because the fear was that if I did decide to go and stay on till Friday and not say anything and get ready to say goodbye on Friday, they were going to let me go after Thursday and not on Friday anyway. So it's like, no, if you fire me on Tuesday, I'm done on Tuesday. I'm not coming in 3 more days. So just what a weird business this really, really has been. Just an update here. People watching us on Facebook. We've got 99 people watching us on Facebook right now. So a lot of people watching. Does anybody have any questions or of each other or anything that you want to share that you've thought about over the last 25 years? John, what do you have?
Yeah, I just want to say I got a short story here. And this happened back a long time ago. And I'm going to bring him up here. And this gentleman right here, Jay Allen.
Oh, Jay Allen, yes. I was going to mention him here at the end.
Oh, my goodness. I'll tell you what. Back in the 80s, we went to Grand Rapids had a basketball team called the Hoops, I think it was. And it was a birthday. And my buddies took me out, and we just got so toasted. And of course, we're out there, and Jay was announcing for the Hoops at the time. And it's like, I'm like 3 sheets to the wind, and I'm ready to do anything. So finally, we get to the halftime. And of course, I'm sitting there going, all right, what a game. I just ran down the stairs, got into the middle of the whole basketball on the floor, and I'm trying to incite a wave. And of course, Jay goes, "Hey, everybody, it's my good friend, John Baker, Hitmaker. Let's help John do a wave." And I'm sitting there going, yeah, and I could have been arrested that night. God bless Jay. But,
Darla, somebody,
man,
speaking of Jay on here, somebody mentioned, Darla, when, and this was before I started working with you and Rick, when for April Fool's Day, you guys switched with Gary Ellen over at Wood Radio.
That was the other one that was so great. Rick and Jay and I went to Wood Radio, and little Gary Allen went to KLQ, and we were laughing so hard because we would tune over to hear what he was doing. And I could still hear him in my head going, and that was Van Halen. And we're like, oh my God. And people were so mad at Wood Radio. I'm never going to listen to you again. They were vulgar. They were awful. They were this, they were that. And that was great fun. I also
you played the diarrhea song, if I remember correctly, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. Hey, I have a Jay Allen
So
story
vulgar.
for before he left to go to Wood Radio. He was on the air with Rick and Jay and Rick and I were talking. I can't remember all the details. We were talking about birthdays. We talked about birthdays every day. So-and-so's birthday, and Jay said, a little nice, sweet Jay said, it's so-and-so's birthday? Who gives a shit? And I looked at him, and Rick goes, oh, I can't believe what you, and then Jay said, I can't believe I just said shit on the air, and he did it again. He was such a lovely man. Such a lovely man.
Yeah, I knew Jay for such a long time. He was actually one of the people that trained me when I was first hired at KLQ. So it goes all the way back to 1989, the first time I met Jay. I videotaped his wedding, so I've known him and his wife Lisa for many, many years, and have kept in touch with him. But yeah, what a sad story to finally get his dream job of the TV announcer for the Detroit Tigers. Thankfully, he was able to do it for a full season, and now this year with everything that's going on with coronavirus, I mean, there's not even going to be a baseball season as we know it, at least for a while yet. So, but yeah, what a sad story.
But let me say one thing about Jay, because I didn't know Jay. I never met him.
Mm-hmm.
But listening to some interviews that he did after he was diagnosed, he was able to present a message that I think was very important to him. Actually, I know it was very important to him, about his faith and about how this was something that was allowing him to reach people. And he did reach me, and I appreciate that message. And his journey had a purpose, and I really think that that it reached a lot of people at the end.
Well, and I don't think a lot of people realize that Jay, at one point in his life, wanted to be a minister. That was his desire, was he wanted to have a church and he wanted to be a minister. And matter of fact, his brother, and I think it's his twin brother even, Vern, actually went on to become a minister. And it was so weird sitting at the funeral, because Vern was up there talking, and Vern and Jay, if you put the two of them together and listen to them, they sound identical. You wouldn't be able to tell the two of them apart. So here I am at Jay Allen's funeral, listening to Vern give this eulogy and talk, and you close your eyes, and it was Jay. I mean, it was very surreal. But yeah, what a great. I mean, talk about a person who could take what he was dealing with and how he was inflicted and turn that into a somewhat positive message for people. And like you said, Ralph, to be able to kind of disperse this message that, someone going through that, you just don't expect that out of them. You don't expect them to kind of take that turn, but he really was very sincere in what he said and did. And it showed. It just really showed how strong his faith really was.
Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. I talked to him and Lisa several times over that journey, and he never, ever lost his faith.
Mm-hmm.
He believed that what was going to happen was God's plan, and he was going to talk to as many people and reach as many people as he could before that happened. And I mean, you rarely hear somebody go on the air like in Detroit when he was still with the Tigers and talk about their faith and God's plan for him. And I really talk about somebody using the most horrible time of their life to try to reach as many people and touch as many people as he possibly could. And he did.
Yep. Let's talk about, first off, does anybody have any questions or any other comments that they want to make before, I kind of steer this in another direction? Just checking, looking through the comments here to see if there was any other comments or questions. I didn't really see anybody. A lot of people are mentioning Rick. And of course, we've mentioned the fact that it's been, 11 years now since Rick passed away. It's hard to believe that it's been that long. It's just, I remember that night getting the phone call from Phil Tower, letting me know that, Rick had a heart attack. That was the first call. And then getting that second call. And it was unbelievable. I mean, I never expected that. When I walked out because we were on vacation, we had taken a couple of days off, and I left on a Wednesday. And I remember saying to him as I walked out of the door at the radio station, I'll call you when I get back on Sunday. And never would have ever realized that was going to be the last thing I said to him. It's just, it was very, very weird to have lost him. And then I had to kind of recreate myself, figuring what I was going to do. Was I going to continue in radio? Were we going to continue the show? What was going to go on? So, I mean, Darla, we've all kind of been there. I mean, we've all kind of had to go from what we were to recreate ourselves in so many different ways. And over the years, it's just, we've all been very successful at doing that, but it's just, you don't really stop and think that, okay, what I'm doing now, at least back when I was young and naive, never stopped to think that, what I'm doing now may not be what I'm going to be doing in 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
Hey, Winters, have you ever listened to that full 4 hours or 3 hours, I guess, that you did?
I never have. Every year on the death of the anniversary of his death, I repost that on Facebook and on my Facebook page. And I have listened. I went through a couple of years ago and I chopped the commercials out of it. So I listened kind of to some of it to be able to do that. But no, I have never listened to the entire show. It's just, I can almost, it's one of those things, and certain things in your life you remember. Usually for a lot of us, it was when we announced big news events, like I'm sure that Stephanie, you remember 9/11.
9/11.
I mean, those things stick with you almost minute by minute. And so I can kind of sit down and without even looking at anything, I could probably tell you the guests we had on what time during that show, all the way from start to finish, just because it's so ingrained in my head. But you want to talk about a tough weekend. First off, just the emotions of losing your on-air partner, and then not knowing what's going to happen to your job and your career. And then I knew I had to do a tribute show. So I was, at the time, I was down in St. Louis. Well, I'd gone down when we left on Wednesday. I was going down because I had a friend who lived in St. Louis, and he was having his tonsils out, and as an adult, and he didn't have any family down there. The only people he really had for friends were people that he worked with, and kind of felt awkward asking them to take him to the hospital and pick him up. And so I said, you know what? I've got time. I'll come down. I'll do that. So went down on Wednesday. Thursday, took him to the hospital. Got his tonsils out, brought him back home, went and got groceries and stuff for him. So I was sitting at his house Thursday night when I got the call. And it was at that point that I said, okay, now I've got to turn around and head back home so I can get all this, because I, at that point, had tons of audio in a variety of different formats. And I had to try to figure out how I was going to narrow it all down. I wanted to get, all of you and some other people that have worked with him on the air. So I had to sit and schedule those people. TV8 hounded me like, just something awful. They wanted to do an interview, and rightly so, I understand it, but they wanted to do an interview with me on Friday. And I told them, well, on Friday, I'm driving from St. Louis to Grand Rapids. And they said, well, where will you be about noon? We'll set it up with the NBC affiliate wherever you're at. You can come in and do a live satellite. I say, I've got my dogs with me. And no, the dogs can come too. I say, no, I'll talk to you on Sunday once I get home. So that's when they did come in and do the interview. But yeah, it was just, I think I slept maybe 2 hours that entire time. I mean, it was a different weekend. It got a very tough weekend.
I don't know how you did that show.
It was tough. It really, really was. It's just, I don't know. The adrenaline starts to kick in, I guess. But it was definitely a tough show because, first off, I'd never really thought about having to do a eulogy for somebody that I knew. And I always admired people that could get up there and do that. And then now here I was doing that same thing. And I think that if I had just had to get up to do that, I don't know if I would have been able to hold it together as well as, because I was in the situation of running all the audio and taking, running the controls at the radio station. I think that's kind of what helped me hold it together. I really do.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Steph. I mean, we mentioned 9/11. I mean, you probably, remember a lot of that.
I do. I absolutely remember that day. And I remember it's one of those things like everybody remembers where they were on 9/11. But I remember it was very surreal that morning, because remember, Rick didn't like to watch news channels. He only liked to watch the Weather Channel. And so at some point we started getting all these phone calls about something had happened, a plane had crashed, there's something that happened. And I know we were all watching. I feel like it had to have been NBC, I think, because I think it was like back when Katie Couric was still on the air.
Mm-hmm.
Because we had to beg Rick to be like, listen, you've got to turn it off the Weather Channel. Please, like, let us put it on an actual news channel. And I remember when we had it on it was live for a moment, and then we had just turned it on. It was when the second plane hit, and we couldn't figure out, like, hold on a minute, was that the first one? Like, is this a replay? Like, it was so surreal. Like, no, that was the second thing that hit. It was just coming in every couple of minutes, everything that was going on from like the Pentagon to Pennsylvania. It was so just surreal. And I remember we did the marathon, which is, like, I feel to this day one of, like, my proudest, like, one of the things, like, I am, like, the most proud that I was a part of in my whole career was that we did, like, that marathon. And I think it was at Studio 28.
It was in the parking lot of Studio 28.
Yeah,
and that was right about the time that a lot of people were getting stimulus checks back then, and people were coming out and signing the back of their check and dropping them right into the fishbowl.
Yep. That was amazing. I remember people bringing in, like, they were getting guitars from bands. Like, there were big auctions that were happening, and people, like, little kids were bringing out money that they had raised, like, from the neighborhood, from, like, little sales. Like, it was, like, for everything bad that was happening in the world, it, like, kind of showed your heart that, like, there are some good things happening.
Very interesting story about 9/11, because at that point, we were recording our show on digital audio tape. And unfortunately, digital audio tape just doesn't have the staying power. It deteriorates very, very quickly. And shortly after I started working at FGR, the program director came up to me and he goes, I've got a DAT tape that's been sitting in my drawer for years. He goes, that I think you may want. And it was the broadcast from 9/11.
Wow.
And I had to search down to find a DAT player to play it in, because DAT players are almost non-existent anymore. The DAT player that I used to have, my own personal one, died many, many years ago. But it had deteriorated so badly, I couldn't pull any audio off it whatsoever. But it's like, I was really hoping that I could go and pull some snippets from that part of history, because we were there on the air. And it's so funny, because every time I talk about the anniversary of 9/11, it's always amazing how many people said that, they heard it. They were listening to us at the time, and that's how they heard about it. Darla, were you on the air during that time?
Yeah, I was on the air in Detroit, actually. And it was a two-person show. It was the Davis and Darla show. And we had a TV. It was off to my left. So I was kind of like his partner, but I did some of the news too. And I said, did you see that? And people started running in the studio and saying a plane just hit the World Trade Center. And so we kept talking about it. Isn't that weird? It's a beautiful, like everybody said, it was a beautiful day. It was clear. It was gorgeous. And, somebody must have had a heart attack at the controls. Nobody would ever imagine at that point, because everything bad had always happened over there. It had never happened in our lifetime over here. Exactly. And then out of the corner of my eye, I remember seeing the second one go in the building. And I said, oh my God, we're under attack. And then after that, do you remember how we all thought that we didn't know where the planes were going? We didn't know if every city was going to be attacked. We were a rock station. And so I couldn't get, you couldn't get the news fast enough. We didn't know what was going on. I mean, we were like grabbing little bits and pieces, and mostly I was talking about what was happening on the television while other people would write notes and bring stuff into the studio. And they finally let us go home, told us to go home, because there was a rumor that planes were going to fly into Detroit. I remember driving down the highway listening to Peter Jennings. And I was halfway home when he said, oh my God, which was the tower that went first?
I don't remember whether it was the
I don't
North
either.
or the
Oh my
North
God,
Tower,
the tower just collapsed. And his voice, I mean, it was just, I think everybody remembers that. It remembers where they were, what they were doing. I'll never forget it.
Yep. Definitely a strange time. I remember, all the planes were grounded for a couple of days. And it was just so weird to not even see an airplane up in the sky. It was weird. It was just
Do you remember when you heard the first one go over your head?
Mm-hmm.
When they started letting them fly again, I heard one flying overhead, and I was like, "Oh my God, are we sure that
know what is that?" Right.
Yeah,
right.
Kind of like now with the coronavirus, this is going to be for younger people. This is their 9/11. This is the world is going to completely change after this.
Well, and you talk about hearing an airplane overhead. What about when you hear someone cough at the grocery store right now?
Yeah.
You're on high alert.
Yep. Or when I cough, and so when I'm at the grocery store and everybody turns and looks at you, it's like, really? No, it's just allergies.
Well, it's so weird because I remember growing up, my parents were talking about, because my parents were born in the 40s. So they were growing up when measles and mumps were a big thing. And so if someone in the family caught the mumps, they would quarantine the house. So, and I remember my parents talking about, they couldn't leave their house because, my aunt or whatever had caught the measles or the mumps. And so they were quarantined. And that was probably about the closest to what we have now, where basically they've quarantined all of us.
Exactly. I think it's Leslie. It's weird that both of our girls, like for our age, they have 9/11 and Corona in their lifetime together. And granted, they were little, but I mean, they have both of those things in their growing up phase.
Yeah.
Hey, Scott.
Yes.
I'm going to sign off.
Okay.
But it was really great seeing all you guys.
Thanks, Bruce.
Good to see you, Bruce.
Good to see you.
Hi, Bruce.
Just one other thing I want to talk about. I happened to find it, and I was going to bring it out, and I didn't before I signed into the meeting today. One of the bits we used to do that to this day people still ask me about, and I can't believe it ever was as successful as it was. The Talking Magic 8-Ball. Were you with us, darling?
Oh my God.
Oh yes.
Stupid. I still have it. It still works. But it's just people would call in and ask questions of the Talking Magic 8-Ball, and we would say we're bringing that thing out, and the phone lines would just light up like a Christmas tree. A stupid toy.
What about? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just saying the dumbest thing is that only ever came up when we really didn't have a great topic for the morning. And then Rick would be like shaking this thing up and try again.
What were you going to say, Darla?
Damn. This is what happens when you get old. You get this thought in your head, and if I can't view it immediately. What about Rick doing the guessing the bra size?
I was just going to bring that up. Actually, I don't have any audio of that. The gazillion times he did it, I didn't have any audio. Somebody sent me some audio here not too long ago. So it's like the whole show, I've got to edit it down, but I'll get that posted up on my blog here, hopefully shortly. Super Hooter Tuesday or Thursday or Wednesday or whatever day we needed to use it. It was
yeah, he would ask questions like, do you drink whole milk? Things like that. And then there was always a rub this between your breasts. Rub the phone between your breasts.
Well, what was so great about that is, and I don't think a lot of people realize that, we were there for entertainment. And a lot of the stuff we did was theater of the mind. And, and that was one of those things that was theater of the mind. And it worked.
Not naked pool parties.
No, that was real.
Yeah, those were legit.
But a lot of the stuff that we did was a theater of the mind. And one bit that comes to mind that Darla, you'll remember was, and Rick was great at these, they were called interactives, and they would come in from the comedy service that we had.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We used to have one that was Carl, the Q-Zoo engineer. And what it was just this, and I think it was comedian, was it Kevin Pollak that did the voice of Carl?
I think it was Kevin Pollak.
But it was just all these, they would send you a script, and it would have Carl's audio, and then you would fill in the gaps between it. And Rick did them so masterfully that, but yeah, Carl, the Kyuzu engineer, that was a great one that we had.
And the day that we did it, because Robin Ralph brought this up, the day that we did the squid toss, who was the woman that
Diane
called
Johnson.
in?
Oh,
And
yeah,
it was
PETA.
And she said she was PETA. That was one of the greatest phone calls ever. But wasn't she married to somebody that worked?
It was Alan Fee's wife.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And then Rick's end line was, if you keep talking that way, you're never going to get in bed with me or something like that.
That is posted up on the blog if you want to go back and hear that. So
yeah.
How is it possible that Robin Ralph and Moose look exactly the same?
Haven't changed, have they?
Oh, well, thank you. I thought Moose looked a little worse, but thank you.
No, I think he looks great.
Well, we've been at this for an hour and 10 minutes, so let's go. We can wrap this up. But thanks for joining me. I mean, I think it's great to see everybody again. Maybe we do this again, in a couple of months or whatever, and we kind of come up with some topics. Maybe we even do it on a regular basis and just talk about what's going on in the world. I think there are a lot of. I mean, we've been consistently at between 90 and like 110 people on Facebook that are watching this just as we're doing this. So. Maybe we do it just as a regular thing, bi-monthly or whatever. Just kind of talk about what's going on. I don't have a problem with that now that we've got a platform to do that. Ralph?
I'm laid off. If I could get paid for this next time, that'd be a lot better.
I'll tell you what, if you're laid off, you can go out and
you want a little talent fee, Ralphie?
Okay.
And by the way, I'm on day 878 of quarantine with my 87-year-old mother. So it doesn't get better.
Tell Mama J we all said hi. I miss Mama J.
Yeah. Do you want to see her?
Yeah.
Is she there?
You got her?
You got her?
She's awake.
I can't imagine having to be like a caregiver for someone that old or, that
Needy.
Come back here. All right, say.
Oh, there she is.
Say hi.
Hi. Hi.
There she is. Hope you're doing well.
These are all my Scott Winters. He worked with Rick and I on WGRD and on WKLQ. And Roving Ralph is, let's see. Roving Ralph is right there. And there's Moose.
Hi, Moose.
And Leslie.
Aww.
Yeah, so you remember all that, don't you?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm quite young.
She's quite young.
Sure. You never forget anything.
No.
Good.
That doesn't forget anything. So get out. All right, thank you, Mom. Get out.
I'm missing once in a while.
Get out.
Once again, thanks everybody. It's been a fun hour. It's been great seeing you all again. This will be up on Facebook too. If everybody, if someone wants to watch it again, or I'll also post it on my blog at scottwintersblog.com. But it was great just catching up, seeing everyone after so many years. It's just hard to believe that it's been 25 years.
25. Oh.
I know. It sounds so long ago, but it doesn't. The good thing is it doesn't seem that long. I mean, it seems like it's only been a couple of weeks, but it's. We've all gotten a little older and hopefully a little wiser over the years, a little bit. But thanks again. Have a great weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, and
thanks, Winners.
Soon.
Thank you.
Awesome love to all of you.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.
I'll see ya.